Welcome to the mother of all talk shows with me, George Galloway, on WBAI, broadcasting to New York and the tri-state area, 99.5 FM.
President of the United States. You are listening to George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows. George is a Scotsman, unlike me, an Irishman. Enjoy.
Yes, indeed, an Irishman. And that's the most believable thing about President Barack Obama, if you ask me. Am I growing more and more jaundiced about your president? I'm sorry to say I am. Maybe he'll put a smile back on my face with the announcement he's about to make on the war in Afghanistan, but somehow I doubt it. I'm talking to you in thunder and lightning-stricken London town, and I hope I'm coming across loud and clear. I understand from Ife that you've got some thunderstorms too. Well, there's the mother of all thunderstorms going on here in London, and it's somehow fitting with the state of the world. We are still at war, you and I, your country and mine, and no end in sight. And revolution is in the air in several European countries, some of them most unlikely. In Greece, which has a revolutionary tradition, the people were besieging the parliament last night, where the prime minister, a so-called socialist prime minister, narrowly won a vote of confidence, though has long ago lost the confidence of the mass of the voters in Greece. But then all the political class have, because the people of Greece are being asked to suffer austerity of the gravest possible kind to pay for a crisis in which they had no hand in the creation. But there was also a huge demonstration in Luxembourg last night. Luxembourg. Who knew there were even people in Luxembourg, as opposed to banks and dodgy characters banking their money there? Well, the people in Luxembourg are being asked to face austerity too. Indeed, the Spanish government indicated this morning that the situation in the Eurozone is very grave indeed, because the austerity measures that have been imposed upon the people of Spain turn out not to have been severe enough, even though they were in fact rejected by the overwhelming number of the Spanish population, leading to turmoil on the streets in the Spanish capital and many other cities like Barcelona. So the Eurozone is in real serious trouble. And, of course, the question is being asked now most specifically in Greece, but also in Portugal and in Spain and in Ireland, and who knows where next. Why don't we just default? What will it do for us if the euro goes into free fall and goes out of business? We'll get our own currencies back. And as we don't have any money, a change in the money isn't really going to affect us. Like that old saw, I'm sure you have it on your side of the Atlantic. If you owe the bank $500, you have a problem. But if you owe the bank $5 million, it's the bank that's got the problem. It's true, you know. I don't want to make them nervous down there in Wall Street, where WBAI is broadcasting from, but if the people in the world start to think like that, well, of course, it has a way of building its own momentum. Anyway, I want your calls on these or any other matters. 212-209-2900. And but for the young woman, Ife, we wouldn't have a show. So I'm hoping she's fielding and handling these calls as she normally does. Ife, is there anyone on the line?
They just started calling in, so I'm just going to pull this person out right now.
All right. Let's hear the first caller of the day on the mother of all talk shows. It's 212-209-2900. Yes, Ife?
Yeah, they're up right now. I didn't get their name. Caller?
Okay. Yes, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes. I call here normally. I'm called the Angry Brother. That's my AKA.
Okay. Go ahead, Angry Brother.
Now, listen, Mr. Galloway, I'm very disappointed at you, and I have to bring this back up.
Okay.
In reference to 9/11, I'm paraphrasing it, but you state that you rather believe that it's what the government officials say who committed the act than the evidence that is presented.
No, well, let me stop you there, brother, because
okay, can I finish?
No, you can finish, but only when I'm finished.
Okay,
now,
please,
brother, if you're going to misrepresent me, I can't allow that. See, you can have an argument with me. You could think I'm a complete tosser, but you can't misrepresent me. I believe... No, that isn't what I said, so I'm going to say it again.
Yeah, please.
I believe that 9/11 was carried out by the Salafist, Islamist, extremist worldview supporters of Osama bin Laden. Number one, because Osama bin Laden told us so. And number two, because I know that world very well. And I know all over the world people who know people in that whole setup. And they have admitted from the day that it happened that they carried it out. That's why I believe it. Not because George Bush told me so. Now go ahead.
Well, Mr. Galloway, I definitely disagree with you. So Osama bin Laden did not admit that he committed the act when it first came out. He denied it and used references to the government of the United States that committed the act. First of all, second of all, whenever you're looking at a crime, you get circumstantial evidence to build your case against who you believe who's done it. So I would agree, because the United States government is murdering and killing people around the earth. Yes, I would believe that the Arab people, certain Arab people, will want vengeance. I will agree. But also, you have to take in consideration the Project of the New Century. If that's correct saying. Project for a New Century, Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, all those crews who said that they could not enact the Patriot Act unless there's a great event like a new Pearl Harbor. And then you have to take a look at, you have to build your circumstantial evidence, all right? And the ones who have the more circumstantial evidence, then that's the one who you targeted as the criminals or the least likely suspect. Now, the government...
Well, look, it's becoming... No. Brother, you said... Brother, listen to me.
Angry brother. I'm angry. Okay,
angry brother. You're becoming boring now, so I'm cutting you off. And I'm cutting you off because you're boring, not because you're smart, not because I'm afraid of what you're saying, just because I've heard it all so many times, and you're not even putting it particularly eloquently. So here's the deal. I'm not saying that George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz and Richard Pearl and all these people couldn't have carried out 9/11 because it's too wicked. Neither am I saying that they couldn't have carried it out because they're too stupid. I'm saying that the scale of the conspiracy that would be required for everything that happened on 9/11 is too large to take the risk of bringing about not just the end of the Republican Party in the United States, but bringing about the collapse of the entire political system in the United States. Number two, I'm saying that they could have enacted a Patriot Act. They could have gone to war against Iraq. They could have gone to war against the Arabs in general much, much more cheaply than conducting such a risky and such a bloody provocation as 9/11. I don't think that you needed to fly two planes, not one. I don't think you needed to dynamite the building on top of the two planes. I don't think you needed planes hitting here, there, and everywhere. That's all far too expensive and far, far too risky. Number three, Osama bin Laden did say that the brothers carried out this act and brought down these tall buildings. Just look it up, watch his lips moving, and hear him saying it. Number four, I, though you may be an angrier brother than me, know more about the Islamist underworld than you do. I know that people involved in this Salafist, fanatic, jihadist underground went to the United States, having previously been in Germany, and they did enroll in flying classes. They did enroll in flying schools. Later, they did board those airplanes. And when I add it all up, you see, if something so much looks like a duck, so much walks like a duck, so much talks like a duck, I kind of believe it's a duck. And there'll have to be a better argument than the one you've just put up to persuade me out of that. But people are welcome to try. This is the mother of of all talk shows.
Here he is, comrades. George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows, guaranteed to destroy all weapons of mass deception.
Indeed. Now, it's 212-209-2900. Come and have a go. You can call me. This is Democracy in Action. It's the mother of all talk shows. Aoife, do we have another call?
Yes, you have Susan from Maspeth, Queens.
Susan in Queens. Queen Susan, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Obviously, I'm from Maspeth, Queens. I voted for Andrew Weiner, and for me, it was one of those rare occasions when I was able to vote outside of the Green Party because I actually believed in the candidate that he would represent me. Not only am I devastated to lose him, but I'm so angry with everybody who turned on him. How dare Barack Obama stand next to Bill Clinton, smiling on several occasions, Bill Clinton who had a cigar in his intern's hoo-ha, but then say that Weiner should resign? I'm so angry with his hypocrisy.
It would only have been impeachable if the cigar had been a Cuban one. Am I not right in that? Am I not right in that regard? Well, I think it's a fair point, but Bill Clinton, of course, is standing next to Barack Obama post-cigar. Weiner's cigar is still very much out there. And it's an impressive cigar by all accounts, though I have not yet myself stooped to looking at it. It was an extraordinarily stupid thing to do, Susan, by someone who, by all accounts, was quite a mover and a shaker on the political scene.
I saw his high school picture, and I can kind of empathize with him. I'm sure he got absolutely no action when he was in high school, and he's kind of like making up for it now by trying to be the big stud. I mean, I can totally understand the psychology behind it, whereas Bill Clinton, I think, was just and so many others, I mean, Schwarzenegger, so many others are just pigs. I mean, I can kind of empathize with him just because I'm sure he had a really traumatic childhood, adolescence.
Well, is he a sort of weedy, wimpish type of chap when he was young?
Yes, and he had a big, I'm Jewish, so I'm going to say it, he had a big Jewish afro, and, I'm sure he just, could not get any action.
He had a big cigar, as Barbara Walters alluded. So that's probably why he was sending it out. I mean, Bill Clinton was doing what he did because he could. And this Weiner was sending out his picture because, hey, it was worth looking at, no?
Yeah. But still, it's not any reason for him to resign. They all, good Lord, they all do that sort of stuff,
He would have faced a very difficult time over the remaining part of his term in office, and he would certainly have lost the subsequent election. So I figure that he worked out that it kind of wasn't worth the, if you'll forgive the pun, wasn't worth the candle.
But okay, Clarence Thomas had allegations against him, and he got the nomination. He got the word eludes me.
Wasn't he appointed to
appointed,
the Supreme
that's
Court?
it. Yes, he got appointed after saying just ludicrous stuff, and Bill Clinton had allegations against him in the beginning, too.
There was always a doubt about that. The problem is in the digital age, and in the end he admitted this, in the digital age it's a bit difficult to hide these things when you're sending them out in the ether.
Yes, and it was colossally stupid of him, but still, I mean, he's the only candidate that actually...
Well, I feel your pain. I feel your pain, Susan, but thanks for sharing it.
All right, thank you.
This will be on YouTube, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Susan, thanks for the call.
Love you. Bye.
212-209-2900. If we have any more calls, Aoife, start putting them through to me.
Yes, you have Julio from the Bronx.
Julio in the Bronx, welcome to the mother of all talk shows, my friend. Go ahead.
Okay, my thing is that we know globally the world is on a total meltdown with this economic crisis, and the government...
it does seem to be a very turbulent period, that's for sure, Julio.
Yeah, and the government, they know it, and they still allow all these things to happen, but yet they're telling us they have a solution, and fully well they don't have a backup plan. And my thing is that we have all these economists, we have all these trained people,
the Obama administration, they have all these trained people behind, handling all of these large amounts of money for war, global warming, all these things. And my thing is about it, is there a solution to these problems, or are they just leading us on, telling us, like, in 2020, there's going to be some change, and when we get to 2020, they're going to give us the same old ride again?
Well, I don't know, Julio. I wouldn't be where I am if I absolutely knew the answer to all of those questions, and I'm not sure even that anybody does. But we can summarize it thus. The world is at war, and the masses in many countries, and not just in the Arab world, but as I mentioned earlier, also in Europe, are rising up against the prevailing conditions. The economies of the capitalist countries are close to free fall, certainly on the end of the abyss. Despite all the billions, or is it trillions, that President Obama has thrown at his economic package, the U.S. economy is not picking up. Unemployment is not going down. Home repossessions are rising, not falling. And in the United Kingdom, and scale down your sense of perspective, because we have a population of just 60 million people, 3.5 million homes bought in the last 5 years are now worth less than the people living in them owe to the banks and the mortgage companies for those houses. That's 3.5 million homes in negative equity in a country that has a 60 million population. Unemployment here in Britain is growing very steadily, and the prospects of the next 2 years under the austerity program already begun by the government are for mass unemployment. And mass unemployment with the risk of what they call a double dip, deflation of the economy pitching into recession again. It's a very, very serious outlook. The one thing I can say, I think, confidently, Julio, is that there's no sign that the political class which is ruling us in your country or in mine or indeed in the European Union has any clear idea of how we're going to get out of all of this. Thanks for the call. Ife, do we have another?
Yes, you actually have John from Long Island.
John in Long Island, welcome to the mother of all talk shows, my friend.
Yes, how you doing?
Good. What would you like to say?
What I'd like to say is, as far as the United States taking on the expense of possibly bringing down the buildings and also orchestrating.
I wasn't talking about financial expense, John. I was talking about the political risk and the expense of that.
But the political risk at this point, the Republicans are doing very bad. So they took the risk, and they're doing very bad. And also, I'd like to say,
what are you talking about? 9/11 was in 2001. George Bush had just been elected.
Yes, and what happened with that is a black man was elected, which basically would have never happened if they didn't take that risk.
I'm really not following you. Ife, let's go on to the next call if we can.
Sure. You have on Jorge from Brooklyn.
Jorge in Brooklyn, welcome again to the show, my friend.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. You're on the air. What would you like to say?
Yes, I would like to talk about 9/11. I do believe that there was a conspiracy carried out by the Muslim extremists, and they did attack the Twin Towers. But I also believe that the United States government and its agencies, they were conscious that these guys were here inside the country already, trying to carry out whatever they were going to do, and they were actually duped into, they were allowed to do what they did, the terror attack, because it conformed to the plans that they had to change the laws here in the United States and around the world. And that
that's of course a theory. We await evidence to back that very radical claim up. I'm in favor of proper inquiry into the events around 9/11. I think there are many, many unanswered questions about 9/11, and we certainly haven't had a proper inquiry. The inquiry we had doesn't in any way deal with the full majesty of all these incredible events and all the consequences that these incredible events had. So I'm with you on that. Let's have a proper inquiry. Just don't ask me to express theories for which I can not possibly adduce any evidence. But thanks anyway for the call. Ife, do we have another?
Yes, you actually have Israel from Brooklyn.
Israel in Brooklyn. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Good morning. I admire you very much, Mr. Galloway.
Thank you, sir.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One, do you know how many Arabs, which are 20% of the Israeli populations, live in the occupied territories and the settlements?
I do. It's 20% of the population of what they call Israel.
Yes.
Are Arabs, Arab Israelis. They are, of course, Palestinians, but they're called Arab Israelis, and until recently their passports identified them as such. Of course, their names and their religion on their passports now identify them as such, but it's no longer states that they are Arabs. There are 1.6 million Palestinians living in the besieged Gaza Strip.
No,
and there
I'm
are some...
I'm sorry. I'm asking how many live in the Israeli settlements, which are in the Palestinian territories. How many Arabs live in Israel?
No, there are no Palestinians
No,
living
Arabs.
in...
How many Israeli Arabs?
As far as I know, none. As far as I know, none.
I think it's called itself a democratic state.
Mm.
And how come these subsidized, which are usually apartment in Israel, costs about 100,000 or 200 to 200, and in the Palestinian territories it costs just 30,000.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people have gone to these settlements, isn't it?
I want to know how come there are no Arab Israelis in these settlements.
Well, I think the answer, Israel, is that no Arab would accept an apartment in occupied Palestinian land, illegally occupied Palestinian land. I think that's probably the reason.
This is the reason? Do you think this is the reason, or because they just give subsidized to Jewish?
I think it's a fair assumption that no Arab Israeli, in other words, no Palestinian Israeli, would go and live in illegally occupied Palestinian land. I think that's a fair assumption.
Second, I probably maybe missed it. Did you win your election in...
I did not. I was the runner-up. But, hey, it means I can all the more easily speak to you here on WBAI. But thanks, Israel, for asking. Thank you very much indeed for listening. This is George Galloway. This is the mother of all talk shows.
My fellow Americans, you can misunderestimate me if you will, but do not misunderestimate Mr. George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows. It always has controversial ideas and sometimes very big words like disambiguation. I got it right.
Indeed, he got it right, but it was the only time. That was George W. Bush. This is George Galloway and Ife, without whom there would be no show. Handling the calls. Ife, who do we have?
Another Brooklynite. This one is Sammy.
George Galloway, love your show.
Sammy in Brooklyn, welcome, my friend.
Love your show so much.
Thanks, bro.
Okay, I'm calling in regards of Israel and the Jewish creed, because religion plays a major part in this whole situation. Okay? Now, okay.
I don't agree with that, but we'll come back to it. You go ahead.
Okay, now, let me explain. The Muslims and the Christians believe that Jesus was the Messiah, and that's agreed upon on both sides.
No, the Muslims don't believe that Jesus was a Messiah.
They don't believe that he's a Messiah? He's going to come
they
back
believe
at the end of times?
The Muslims believe that he was a prophet and that he will come back at the end of times, yes.
Okay,
Messiah means something different. But anyway, go on.
Okay, but in Arabic they call him the Messiah.
Yeah, that's
Messiah.
the name for Christians in Arabic, yeah.
Okay, and the Christians believe the same thing. Now, what I want to get to is the Jewish creed believe is that they're praying on their Messiah, and they're waiting for their own Messiah to come. But the Messiah won't come only till they build a temple. And where they want to build the temple is where the Dome of the Rock is, in Palestine, in Jerusalem.
Yeah. Some Jews believe that. Some Israelis believe that.
Some Israelis. Okay.
Yeah, but,
let's say
Sammy, we can't go into a very long religious discourse, and in any case, there's no need to, because the vast majority of Israelis are not religious at all.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of Israelis have no interest whatsoever in building a temple anywhere, still less on what they call the Temple Mount. So there's no need to go into all that. It's about land.
Yeah, I know.
It's about people and land.
The Israelis on top, the government. I'm not talking about the Israelis or the people, the regular population.
But you think Netanyahu's a religious man? No way.
The Likud, he's a very hawkish man. The Likud is very hawkish.
It's very hawkish,
Okay.
and always has been. But it's also been.
Exactly.
But it's also been entirely atheistic.
Okay, so ask me this: why are they doing excavation under the Dome of the Rock?
Jabotinsky, whose school now rules Israel, and which has split into two with the Kadima and the Likud. But the Jabotinsky revisionists were notable mainly by their atheism. None of these people are religious, and they're not doing anything that they do for religious reasons.
Okay, now
and therefore, we don't need to grant them something that they don't deserve, namely that they're acting for religious reasons. There are, of course, religious zealots amongst the Jews in Israel, as there are religious zealots amongst all populations everywhere.
Okay, but you also know that they're doing excavation under the Dome of the Rock.
I do, indeed, and the dome on the rock is very, very much endangered by that.
What's the excavation for? For what reason?
Well, they say for historical purposes. I'm not interested in their motivation. I'm only interested in that they must be stopped. And they must be stopped because...
If the U.S. government can't stop them, who else can? That's the funny situation to me is.
But the U.S. government could stop them.
Ooh. The Republicans don't say nothing. The Democrats don't say nothing.
Sammy, we're talking about would and could. That's two different things. The U.S. government could stop them doing everything that they do. And tomorrow. By simply,
the past 60 years, I really haven't. The only closest president was Jimmy Carter. He was the only thing that said something.
No, Jimmy Carter didn't.
You know what they did to him?
Sammy, we can't keep talking over each other.
All right.
Let me have a say. Jimmy Carter did nothing when he was in power to help the Palestinian people. Absolutely nothing. We're glad that he's seen the light like Paul on the road to Damascus since. But he did nothing when he was in power. If you want the truth, the only two American presidents who ever said no to Israel were Truman and George Bush Sr. They were the only people who ever told Israel that if you want to continue receiving all the money that we send you and all the military, diplomatic, and political protection that we afford you, you're going to have to do what we tell you to do.
They have no power whatsoever.
No, you're wrong.
It's
Sammy,
the Congress
you're wrong.
and AIPAC.
No,
AIPAC controls Congress.
The American state has the absolute power to stop Israel doing everything that it does.
So
what they lack is the political will to do so. On that, at least, I think we can agree.
Who's stopping them?
Who's stopping them?
Yes.
They're stopping themselves. They don't want to do it.
It's not AIPAC?
AIPAC is an important player in that.
AIPAC doesn't control Congress?
The pro-Israel lobby controls Congress.
Exactly.
That's not just AIPAC.
And Congress controls America, correct?
The President, the Congress, and the Senate, and the Supreme Court, they control America, yeah.
So what I get back to you is AIPAC. If AIPAC controls Congress,
I didn't accept that premise. I'm saying the pro-Israel lobby controls Congress. And
that is AIPAC.
No, it's not only AIPAC. It's partly AIPAC, but it's mainly the serried ranks, tens of millions strong, of Christian fundamentalists in America.
Yeah, that's also with them. That's another part of it.
No, that's more important. That's more important.
Yes,
that's
I believe you. You're right on that.
Yeah, I am right, and it's very important that I say so, because otherwise, you see, some people might get the impression, or some people might have an incentive to spread the impression, that you and I were sitting here talking about Jews, and we're not. Many Jews are not.
Not at all.
No, but
I'm just saying.
Trust me, I know what I'm talking about, Sammy.
Yeah,
I know how things are perceived. Now, Many Jews are not Zionists, and most Zionists are not Jews. That's all I'm saying. Sammy, thanks for the call. It's the mother of all talk shows, all right. It's George Galloway on WBAI.
Fighting the golden flakes of change with the milk of human kindness. This is the mother of all talk shows, and George Galloway. Mr. President, that made no sense whatsoever. I know. That's why I said it.
Well, as you know, I was a supporter of Barack Obama long before the election. Indeed, I was maybe his first supporter in the United Kingdom. I have a weekly, then twice weekly, radio show on British radio in which I used to proselytize for President Obama when most people in Britain couldn't even say his name right, and many, of course, on both sides of the Atlantic, still cannot. I was moved literally to tears when he was elected as the President of the United States. But now I'm thinking the only possible reason for re-electing President Obama is that you'll get some fruitcake from the Republican right if you don't. And that's such a long way short of what I had been hoping for. Maybe you too. If so, let me know. It's 212-209-2900. Ife?
Yes. You have another Brooklynite. Brooklyn is definitely in the house. McLean.
Yes, McLean in Brooklyn. We're doing well in Brooklyn today, I must say, and I'm sure you'll keep up the standard. Go on.
Good day to you, sir.
And you, sir.
Only thing I'd like to state to you is that there's a film, a documentary. It's called Zeitgeist, the movie. It was offered as a premium at BAI. The 2010 version has a very excellent categorizing and cataloging of evidence as far as the 9/11 situation, and I'm not going to comment on it any further to burn your ears anymore about it. But if you have the time or the inclination, I would suggest you really take a look at it. It's Zeitgeist, the movie, the 2010 version.
I'll do that.
Mr. Galloway, do you happen to know the history of the name McLean?
Are you spelling it M-C-L-E-A-N?
Yes.
Well, it means the son of lean. But the meaning of lean, I don't know. But if it's small c, it probably comes from Ireland. If it's M-A-C, it probably comes from Scotland.
Okay. There's
all right, my friend. Many thanks for the call. Many thanks for the call in Brooklyn. Now, where have we not heard from, Ife? We haven't heard from Connecticut today. Is there anyone in Connecticut?
Well,
is there anyone in New Jersey?
Well, you have Ted from New Haven, Connecticut.
George, there you go. There you go. Just wished for it, it came.
You got
Ted, welcome to the show, my friend.
Good morning, George. I have a fast comment. I happen to like to read the wedding announcements in the Sunday Scholar section of the New York Times every week. If you read the wedding announcements, you see all these people in their 20s mostly graduating from the finest schools in America or Europe, and these people are engineers, doctors, lawyers, diplomats, you name it. They're going to be running the world for the next 50 years. I think all the unemployment in America right now, people in their late 40s, 50s are out of work, professional, are never going to work again at close to what they've been doing. And that is a major problem.
It is,
It cannot, no one can fix it. That's just the way, because the world doesn't need all these workers anymore. Technology has gotten to the point where they replaced thousands of workers with machines. And
but as the United Auto Workers told Henry Ford when he told them that he could build his cars with machines and robots, they said, well, who's going to buy your car?
No, that's quite true. However, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all these schools that produce smart kids. The minorities in America, I don't know what they're going to do. McDonald's seems to be the only place unless they're, doing better than most. This country is right now we're in a depression. It's not going to get better unless you're wealthy. If you're wealthy or doing well in America, it's a great place to live because you just have a life. The working class in America is toast. And I look at the European Union, Canada, Japan, Taiwan. They're working class. They have lives. I was in Paris recently. I watched butchers work in a butcher shop. They have a life. They go home. They got a family. 3 weeks, 6 weeks vacation, benefits, tremendous health benefits, education benefits, you name it. That's not what's true in America. We've become a second-rate country economically, except we're still big. We're a military insane country. We kill everyone in the world at will.
Well, that's it. I mean, and we're in the same boat, Ted.
I know.
If you'll forgive the metaphor at this time of the morning, Britain and America are good at going around the world swinging their wiener.
Tony Blair wanted access to the Iraqi oil, so he jumped right in. Didn't help his country much.
They're good at swinging their wiener and trying to terrify people with it. But nothing. We're not making anything.
Let me get off in a second. My wife said, "What happens when we run out of oil? Peak oil, ridiculous stuff." When the peak oil hits or America needs oil, you know what we're going to do? We're going to invade Saudi Arabia. I'm not worried about oil in America. We'll just take it when we want it. I mean,
well, Ted, that's a powerful contribution. Let's see what the rest of the listeners think. Thanks for the call in Connecticut. I was missing Connecticut. I'm missing New Jersey. Aoife, do we have anyone from New Jersey?
Well, you have Ernest from New Jersey.
Hey, Ernest, you see, I just knew you were coming along there, man. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Galloway, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Your comment about the President of the United States couldn't be more fitting. I think he's so planning on being a second-term president that he forgot why we put him there.
Let's hope he's got something up his sleeve for the second term. I have my doubts about that, I must say.
This is exactly what I'm saying. I don't think he's got anything, because he could have been vetoing, make executive orders, and do what he wanted. Let the next president come and change it.
Yeah. You know what he could have done? He could have come in and said, this country is on its knees. The economy has almost been destroyed. And we're at war with the world, thanks to 8 years of right-wing neocon republicanism. I'm going to stop every war, and I'm going to launch a Roosevelt-style New Deal to completely redesign American capitalism. And he had the majority to do it. But he's blown it.
Of course he's blown it. And the next thing is, why isn't he taxing severely all the American companies that go overseas and bringing their products into the United States?
Exactly, because that would require telling capitalism that it was not king, that the people were king. Now let me ask you this. I watched the seven dwarfs of the Republican Party competing in their debate the other night. I don't know which one frightened me most. Which one frightened you most? Who's going to win?
I don't. Right now, they're fighting to find someone.
Who's this woman Bachmann? She seems Sarah Palin with a pea-sized brain.
I don't know. They don't have. They're trying to get Christie to run now.
What about this new guy, Huntsman, the former ambassador in China?
No, I think they're heading for Christie.
Christie, who's he?
The New Jersey governor.
New Jersey governor, my goodness. Well, I hope he's straight. Okay, thanks very much indeed for that call.
You're welcome, sir.
All the best. Aoife, who do we have?
You have KJ from Queens.
KJ in Queens, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, George. How are you?
Hi. I'm well, sir. Thanks.
Welcome to the post-traumatic 9/11 syndrome, and of course,
yes. I'm feeling it.
Well, you know, I said give you hell because you need some of that. You and I've had a little conversation about that, and I recognize your pragmatism about it, everything, and the politics of America. But America's doomed. In seeing what you saw in the convention or the discussions among the Republican Party and those number of idiots who are still searching for their John Wayne. The American psyche is torn by virtue of the rugged individualism, and we're not recognized. We don't have the political class distinction or ideological framework that maybe Britain has. So I think in your reference point in that regard, America is just torn by isms of racism, schisms, rugged individualism, capitalism, and so forth, to such a point that we don't even know. That's why we watch fantasy TV. That's why we're into reality.
Well, look, I mean, that's a powerful indictment. But can I just say something as an antidote? You may think it's a little shallow as an antidote, but I watched Bruce Springsteen live singing "This Land Is Your Land," the Woody Guthrie song, and the intensity with which he did so. And I listened to the words very carefully. You know, you are the luckiest people on the earth You're living in a country from sea to shining sea, from the Gulf to the redwoods. You are living in a place so abundant in natural wealth and beauty, in greatness, vastness, grandness. You have such can-do spirit within your country. You have such a record of technological innovation and of cultural development, rapid cultural development. You have such diversity that you could be, should be, maybe once were, are no longer, but could be again, something truly great. And what's needed is to shake yourselves free from this malaise and find a political leadership that can take you all to the promised land. And for a moment, a brief moment, President Obama seemed like the man who could do that. But my goodness, what a disappointment he's been. What do you say?
If I may, George, I agree with you. We all had our hopes on a possible the campaign and the platitudes of President Obama's campaign. I am so dismayed and disappointed by it. I have nothing more to say about it. Many of the calls before say, well, the black man would never have been elected. True that, because I still contend when things hit the fan, give it to a black man, you can always blame him for it, you know. But you know what that's about, you know, kind of. But I think that America has expended its capital, and yes, all the beauty. I love Bruce Springsteen, but the beauty and what we had is that we thought we got arrogant, and I think Martin Luther King speaks highly to that. Your arrogance is so much that I'll give your power to another nation that doesn't even know my name. He speaks of in his Christian philosophical position, but the point being that China emerging on the horizon, not that they don't know God. I'm not trying to imply that, but simply that another nation doesn't know my name. We've expended our capital, and it's going to take, unfortunately, a number of years of Americans grinding it out to recognize the class distinction that the wealthy class, and not to blame all the wealthy people, but certainly the wealth who have billions and who've mastered this system in a way that they guarded their billions, knowing it will only be millions shortly because the fiat capital currency starts to erode, as you're seeing the euro and what's happening on the global scale in the finance. As that erodes, their billions will be worth $1 million, and America will not look the same. And again, the patriotism of so-called American capitalists is already gone. That's an illusion. So my point is, I hope that your show continues, of course, as it will, as long as you will. I really hope you'll stay up for it. But I think you're going to continue to have the callers coming in with 9/11 because I do believe there's a lot more to be said about it. And
well, look, let's not segue back to that because your call was a marvelous call. By the grace of God, I'm here. As long as I've got breath, I'll keep speaking. I'll keep speaking on WBAI, and soon I'm going to start maybe a daily television show in the United States. So watch this space and listen up. Now, the tears were running down my face there, Aoife, at the pessimism and the demoralization and the dismay which is obviously felt widely, at least amongst our listenership. I'm hoping that we can pick up over the next 15 minutes a bit more optimism, but maybe that's the way it is. Tell me, Aoife, who do we have?
Well, up next you have Linda from Princeton, New Jersey.
Never stop looking for Linda, as the great Hue and Cry song said. If you haven't heard it, look it up on YouTube. Linda, welcome.
Good morning, George.
Hi.
Hi. My first thing is I'd love it if you could help me seek political asylum in Scotland. I'm serious.
Trust me, you wouldn't like it as much as you think. But go on.
Really? But I'm very dismayed.
You're in one of the most beautiful places on the earth in the United States of America. My great-grandmother emigrated from New York to Dundee in Scotland, and if you'd ever seen Dundee, you'd realize she must have gotten on the wrong boat.
Oh.
Go on, Linda.
Listen, I have two things. I think a possible, I voted for Mr. Obama, though I did not support him. I don't have a television now for 10 years, so I listen on radio, which I advise people to do. Don't be distracted by the visuals. And I did not hear in his campaign speeches anything that inspired me with great confidence. I thought, well, maybe it'll be a fluke and he'll do what he's saying he'll do. But I also listened very carefully between the lines, and I did not hear much difference between him and Mr. Clinton. and other Democrats. So
no, but that wasn't the choice, Linda, was it? The choice was between him and Mr. McCain, and
exactly.
you've got to say there was a difference there.
Exactly. So I did vote for him. My thought was, why not run someone like Bill Bradley in the Democratic primaries and see what happens?
Well, I mean, I think if anyone opposed President Obama now for the Democratic nomination, that would just weaken the whole thing and make a Bachman-Turner overdrive more likely, don't you think?
I don't know, but I'd like to get your opinion on the following question. I differ from other people on the left who say that Israel was created to give a refuge to the Jews from World War II. I've always believed from the beginning that the United States and Britain cooperated to have a strategic a bastion or whatever, military, within the Middle East, knowing more or less what the next 50 years would bring in terms of oil exploitation in the Middle East.
Well, I think that Britain was more guilty of that than the United States was. In fact, Truman was much less enthusiastic about Britain's plan for what Britain called a little loyal Jewish Ulster, reference to the plantation of Scots, as a matter of fact, in the northeast corner of Ireland, who were used as exactly that kind of base camp for the British Empire that you rightly imply was the purpose of Israel. It was a European settler state. It was a European colonial enterprise, just like the European colonial enterprises in southern Africa and elsewhere. Linda, I've got to press on.
Okay,
Thank
you, George.
Cheer up, girl. And, you know, not all TV is bad.
I'll send you a postcard
especially
from
when I
Scotland.
start. All right, especially when I start my TV show in the United States. Anyway, Aoife, who do we have?
You have Michael from Wantagh, Long Island.
Michael in Long Island, welcome to the show. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, hi, Mr. Galloway.
Hi.
I admire your past debates with Christopher Hitchens.
Yes, thank you. That was a good day. That was the grapple in the apple.
Yeah, it's very amusing. Question, since I realize that you're a rather informed individual, something I have a sincere dilemma with regarding your understanding of the events of 9/11, which I know you've stated repeatedly what your position is with that. But I'm aware that there's quite a bit of controversial information. There's the 9/11 Truth Movement, which consists of many high-level scientists, engineers, including the original designers and architects of the Twin Towers, who have stated that multiple planes could have hit those buildings without bringing them down.
Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? They designed and built them, but that's not what I saw happen with my eyes.
Well, my point is that it's to me it's not an issue of whatever Bin Laden had said or admitted to or not. You know, I could see the involvement of the guys with the box cutters and whatever a person's position is on that, and whatever role they thought that they played, an individual believes that those people played, whether they were used as a cover or whether or not you think that they were responsible for the entire issue that...
Well, I'm sure they were responsible for flying those two aeroplanes into the Twin Towers. Do you accept that two aeroplanes did fly into the Twin Towers?
Yes.
You accept that they were hijacked?
Well, I accept the fact that there were two planes that were hijacked. Whether those are the same two planes that actually hit the buildings...
Well, what happened to all the civilian people on board the planes that were hijacked if they were not flown into the Twin Towers?
You know what? I don't know for sure. I've understood various scenarios with respect to that, but...
Oh, come on, give me a straight answer. I mean, they're either hiding out somewhere or they're in the Bermuda Triangle, no?
Well, I wouldn't say they're in the Bermuda Triangle, but...
Well, look, we know that individuals got on those planes. And if they were not flown into the Twin Towers, then that either means they were murdered somewhere or they're still alive somewhere else.
Well, if some group of people were powerful enough to organize the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which the majority of people believe is what actually happened, and that Lee Harvey Oswald was something other than what he was originally portrayed to be.
Well, I believe that, just to
Okay,
make the point.
so-
I'm not saying there are never any conspiracies, but to actually make disappear the passenger manifest of 3 jet airliners, to either murder them somewhere or to hide them successfully for the last nearly 10 years. It's so fantastic, it's so fanciful, that I don't believe that the Bush administration would have been capable of carrying such a maneuver out, even if they were stupid enough to want to take the risk of so doing, which would bring down, as I said, the entire U.S. political system. It astonishes me that a man intelligent enough to make the conversation you're making now actually believes that. It really does. Maybe it's the fact that we're two people divided by a
the U.S.
common
political
language.
system is being brought down. The entire U.S. political system is being brought down right around our ears.
Well, it wasn't in 2001 when George Bush won the presidency, and there would seem to me to have been no reason for George Bush in the first year of his presidency to risk not only the termination of his party, but the termination of the U.S. political system. For what? Why would they need to do that?
In order to carry out, and first of all, to create an eternal boogeyman so that you can have an excuse to have wars.
There already was an eternal boogeyman. He tried to blow up the Twin Towers before. He blew up the American embassies in Dar es Salaam and in Nairobi. There's no need to risk total political oblivion for the entire American political system just to give a gust of air in the sails of the new American Century project. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut that off because I want to squeeze at least one more call in. Ife, please.
Yes, you have calling from Jersey. It's an anonymous caller.
An anonymous caller from Jersey. Well.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I was listening to what the gentleman said further before me, and listen, this is a thing. I don't know. I just got the last bit about like when you're talking about Palestine, Israel, and everything like that, and you know, I just think that I mean, we have to really know who the enemy is, and it's not. I mean, like, especially because it's not who you think it is. You know what I'm saying? It's not people using.
I don't know what you're saying. You're not making any sense. Come to your point.
You have to understand who the enemy is. First of all, the United States and the Bush administration, the whole foundation of the United States of America. Like, if you even look at the dollar bill in the back of the pyramids, and like there's certain ancient knowledge that's weaved into the fabric of the political system now. So when you're saying, I don't know why George Bush would do this to have the American people, they don't give a you-know-what about us. They don't care about us, okay?
That's not, but you obviously weren't listening to what I was saying. I'm not saying that, listen to me, Anonymous, Mrs. Anonymous, listen to me. I'm not saying that George Bush is not wicked enough to do that. I'm not saying that he's not wicked enough to do that. He's plenty wicked enough to do that. I know that. What I'm saying is, I mean, I can hear the flap of white coats here. This is insanity to me. I'm on the radio in America, and I'm getting caller after caller after caller, some of whom talking about the back of dollar bill notes, others of whom saying that the people on board the 3 aircraft may actually still exist somewhere, or may have been taken away and murdered, because they were not necessarily on the planes that had been hijacked when they were flown into the buildings. I mean, there's only 2 ways of looking at this. Either I'm mad or you're mad. That's the long and the short of it. And I don't know whether to laugh or cry, actually, at some of the things that I'm hearing here. Ife, is there anyone out there with a sensible call to make?
Well, I don't know, because we're coming to the close, so...
All right, well, look, I'll tell you what, I hope you've chosen a song that's appropriate, because I'm crying here. The tears are rolling down my cheeks. Well, if God spares me and if we're lucky enough, I'll talk to you again next week at the same time on WBAI.